Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
What if I told you that being absolutely terrible at coding is actually your biggest advantage in the new economy?
I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's true.
Right. And that the very same software that is about to make your next smartphone hundreds of dollars more expensive is, actively causing a massive diplomatic crisis in Europe.
Yeah, it's all connected.
We're looking closer at the hidden forces reshaping your wallet, your workplace, and, well, the global balance of power. Welcome to the show. I'm Alex, and sitting across from me is Morgan. We are your professional, hopefully somewhat charismatic co-hosts of Connecting the Dots, broadcasting live from Snarful Solutions Group right here in Sacramento, California.
It is fantastic to be here with you.
Today is Thursday, June 18, 2026. And before we get to the heavy hitters of the tech world, let's do a quick vibe check on the day's data.
Always good idea.
Right. So if you are stepping out here in Sacramento, you're in luck. We've got a beautiful sunny day hitting 86 degrees Fahrenheit with a really nice light breeze, somewhere between like 5 and 14 miles per hour.
Oh, that is just pristine patio weather.
Exactly. Huh. But if you are traveling or listening from elsewhere in the country, you might want to double check your itinerary. Nationally, we're looking at 400 active weather alerts.
Wow, 400.
Yeah, and 283 of those are over land. So definitely head over to weather.gov to see if your area is affected before you hit the road.
Yeah, the weather systems have been incredibly volatile this week. Always good to be prepared.
For sure. Moving over to the markets, it was, a bit of a red day on Wall Street yesterday. The Dow closed down 445 points, which is about a 0.86% drop.
Ouch.
Yeah. The S&P 500 also dipped, losing 104 points or 1.39%.
Yeah.
And if you are watching the crypto boards, Bitcoin took a slight dip as well, closing out at $64,318.
It really looks like a broader cooling off period across, both traditional equities and digital assets.
It definitely does. And finally, just a mixed bag for local sports from the 17th. The SF Giants gave us something to cheer about with a solid 7-2 win against the Braves. Robbie Ray took the win on the mound for that one. But on the other side of the bay, the Oakland A's dropped their game to the Pirates, 4-12. And for the basketball fans out there, no Kings game to report right now.
Well, we will absolutely take the Giants win where we can get it.
Oh, no complaints here. All right, let's get into today's Morning Star Tech Report for this deep dive. We have a massive lineup. We're looking at Apple's impending and apparently unavoidable price hikes.
Right.
Then we are shifting into this intense geopolitical standoff over the world's most advanced artificial intelligence. Let's unpack this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
So the AI boom is officially coming for your wallet.
Yeah, it really is.
Tim Cook recently sat down for an interview with the Wall Street Journal, and he delivered some news that frankly, no consumer ever wants to hear. He stated that massive price hikes on upcoming Apple products are simply unavoidable, and that the current supply chain reality they are facing is just unsustainable.
And, the culprit here is directly tied to the physical infrastructure required to run artificial intelligence.
Which is wild to think about.
Right, because when we visualize AI, we usually picture like lines of code, algorithms, chat interfaces.
There's elsewhere stuff.
Exactly. But AI is incredibly reliant on physical hardware. Specifically, it is devouring the global supply of memory and storage chips.
Wait, hold on. When I think of AI, I think of like massive computing power, right? Yeah. Companies buying up huge NVIDIA GPUs that do billions of calculations a second.
Sure.
So why is Apple getting outbid on memory and storage? Isn't memory just the digital filing cabinet where things are saved? Why is that the bottleneck?
That is a very common misconception. AI isn't just compute heavy, it is fundamentally memory bound.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about how a large language model works. It has billions, sometimes trillions, of parameters or weights. Every single time the AI generates a single word, it has to load those billions of parameters from the memory into the processor.
Oh, wow.
Do the math, and then move on to the next word. It's a massive amount of data moving constantly.
Ah, I see. So the processor is like the factory, but the memory is the conveyor belt feeding materials into the factory.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how fast your factory can build things if the conveyor belt is too slow or too small. The whole operation just starves.
That is the perfect way to look at it. And to prevent that starvation, AI data centers require something called high bandwidth memory, or HBM.
Okay.
It is a highly specialized, incredibly dense type of memory chip. Because the AI companies are willing to pay massive, almost unbelievable premiums for HBM, the chip manufacturers, companies like Samsung and SK Hynix, are actively shifting their production lines.
Makes sense. Follow the money.
Right. They are literally tearing down the manufacturing lines that used to make consumer device memory.
You're kidding.
And rebinging them to make server-grade AI memory.
Which obviously creates a massive supply vacuum for consumer electronics.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of a normal, everyday family trying to buy a starter house in a crazy real estate market.
Oh, absolutely.
They save up, they put in a competitive offer, and then suddenly a massive corporate buyer swoops in with an all-cash, over-asking offer and just takes the property.
Yep.
The AI corporations are the all-cash buyers here. And even Apple, one of the wealthiest, most powerful supply chain operators on Earth, is getting entirely outbid.
And Tim Cook actually likened this dynamic to a 100-year flood in the supply chain. He stated he hasn't seen anything disrupt the market this violently in over 40 years.
So what does that mean for you, the consumer?
Well, the real-world impact is pretty steep. Market analysts are projecting that the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro could cost around $270 more.
Just for the phone?
Yeah, just so Apple can maintain its current profit margins. And they're already doing this quietly across their other products, right?
They are. The base price of the new Mac Mini just jumped from $599 for $799. They didn't even raise the price of the entry-level components.
Yeah.
They just eliminated the lowest tier option entirely because they can't source those chips cheaply enough anymore.
And, this hardware crisis has a really fascinating geopolitical twist to it, too.
Oh, yeah.
President Trump recently announced on Truth Social that Intel has struck a massive deal to manufacture Apple's chips right here in the United States.
Which is a huge pivot because Apple has historically relied almost entirely on Taiwan for its processor manufacturing.
Exactly.
Bringing that production to U.S. soil is a frantic effort to, diversify their manufacturing base and secure a domestic supply chain that isn't vulnerable to international shipping bottlenecks or foreign conflicts.
It really is. And the administration had actually laid the groundwork for this earlier. Back in August, the U.S. government made an $8.9 billion investment in Intel, taking roughly a 10% stake in the company. In his recent post, the president highlighted how massively that investment has grown. Intel's overall market value has surged from around $100 billion at the time of the investment to over $600 billion today.
It's crazy. It really reframes how we look at physical hardware. It isn't just consumer electronics anymore. Semiconductor manufacturing is straight up being treated as a critical core component of national security.
And that reality creates the perfect bridge to our next story.
Yeah.
Because if Washington is treating the physical hardware like a national security asset, they are treating the actual AI software like a weapon of mass destruction that needs to be locked in a vault.
Exactly. So let's look at the gap between that geopolitical panic and the international business landscape. Because if hardware is getting expensive, the software is getting heavily guarded.
Right.
We are moving from the physical chip shortage to an intense geopolitical tug of war over the AI software itself, specifically. A massive standoff between the leading AI company Anthropic and the White House.
This is an incredibly complex situation. So the Trump administration recently utilized an export control directive that effectively forced Anthropic to pull its most advanced AI models, known as Mythos and Fable 5, completely offline for international users.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, since Fable 5 is essentially the public, heavily safeguarded face of their absolute cutting-edge frontier model, Mythos, taking it offline is a massive blow to their user base.
Oh, definitely.
So what actually triggered the administration to drop the hammer like this?
Well, the primary catalyst appears to be an Anthropic initiative called Project Glasswing. Anthropic was using this program to grant early experimental access to their Mythos model to a select group of trusted global organizations.
Okay.
And one of those organizations was SK Telecom, which is South Korea's largest wireless carrier.
Wait, South Korea is a major U.S. ally. Why would sharing a model with their largest telecom carrier trigger an export ban? So
the White House raised major concerns regarding the corporate structure behind that telecom. The The administration alleges that SK Telecom's parent group has extensive, deeply embedded business ties to China, spanning across their energy, semiconductor, and industrial sectors. And compounding that anxiety, independent researchers from Amazon recently published a paper flagging certain vulnerabilities they found in the public Fable 5 model, demonstrating that it was technically possible to bypass some of the model's safety guardrails.
Well, so the administration looks at the board. They see an advanced frontier model going to a foreign telecom with alleged ties to Chinese industry. And simultaneously, Amazon researchers are saying, hey, the public version of this software has security vulnerabilities.
Right.
The government's response was basically a blanket order. Revoke access for all foreign nationals immediately, including foreign nationals working legally inside the United States.
Which is a complete logistical nightmare for a tech company. Anthropic couldn't execute that kind of granular nationality-based access control without violating international privacy laws.
Right, of course.
And completely dismantling their own operational infrastructure. So, facing an impossible compliance demand, they simply pulled the plug on the models entirely.
I have to ask, though, does a blanket ban like this really make us safer? Or is it like a parent grounding the entire neighborhood from using a trampoline just because one kid might eventually invite someone over that the parent doesn't trust?
That's a good analogy.
I mean, it feels like a really isolationist approach to a globally connected technology.
And that is the exact debate happening in diplomatic circles right now, because this domestic U.S. dispute is actively freezing Europe out of the AI race entirely.
Wait, I'm struggling to see how Europe factors into a bilateral issue between a U.S. tech company and a South Korean telecom. How does the EU get caught in the crossfire?
It comes down to regulatory access. The European Union's primary cybersecurity agency, known as ENISA, was actually scheduled to meet with Anthropic this week. Yeah, they had spent months negotiating to get early access to the Mythos model through that exact same Project Glasswing initiative. The EU desperately wants to understand how these frontier systems work so they can build up European cybersecurity defenses against them.
But now, because of the U.S. export block triggered by the South Korean issue, that European meeting is completely dead in the water.
Precisely. It is a harsh wake-up call for Brussels. It proves to European regulators that their technological sovereignty is entirely dependent on Washington's moods.
Wow.
The EU does not possess a domestic equivalent to Anthropic's Mythos model to test their defenses against. So an American export policy designed to counter Chinese industrial ties in South Korea is now directly dictating a European government agency's ability to protect its own digital infrastructure.
That is a massive realization. And Anthropic is just caught right in the middle, trying to be a trusted global partner to European regulators while simultaneously complying with strict, suddenly shifting directives from their own government.
Which brings us to a critical breaking point. We really need to dig deeper into why the relationship between Anthropic and the administration is so heavily fractured right now.
All right.
Because the current deadlock revolves around a specific technical demand from the administration that reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how artificial intelligence actually works.
Yeah, so let's unpack this. The Trump administration officials are telling Anthropic that before they are allowed to re-release the Fable 5 model, they must unequivocally prove that the model's safety guardrails are completely impossible to jailbreak.
Yes.
Meaning, no matter what adversarial prompt a user inputs, the model will never bypass its own safety training to output malicious code or dangerous instructions.
And independent cybersecurity experts across the industry are looking at this demand and stating unequivocally that it is literally impossible. Guardrails on large language models are fundamentally just stopgaps.
Let's talk about the mechanism here. Why is it impossible to permanently secure an AI? Why can't you just write a rule that says, never explain how to build a bomb and hard-code it into the system?
Well, because LLMs don't understand words the way a traditional software program understands a line of code. They map concepts in high-dimensional space.
Okay, what does that mean?
Think of it like a massive galaxy of meaning where every concept has a mathematical coordinate. So if the government says, block all instructions for making a bomb, the AI puts a wall in front of that direct coordinate path.
Right. But human language is endlessly creative.
Exactly. A user can just approach that exact same concept through a semantic backdoor. They don't ask for a bomb recipe. They asked the AI to write a fictional story about a rapid exothermic chemical reaction occurring inside a confined metal space for a sci-fi novel.
Oh, wow.
The AI traverses the high-dimensional space, bypasses the blocked bomb coordinate, and arrives at the exact same dangerous information from a completely different angle. You cannot patch human language.
It is literally like demanding that a shipbuilder create a completely unsinkable ship before they are allowed to put it in the water.
Right.
You can build watertight compartments, you can have lifeboats, you can train the crew perfectly, but you cannot guarantee it will never sink when faced with the infinite variables of the ocean. Demanding absolute, unhackable security is basically demanding that the technology never be released.
And this impossible standard has led to deep frustration within Anthropic. According to reports, some Anthropic employees believe the administration is intentionally placing these impossible hurdles in front of them as a form of targeted punishment.
Which stems from a backstory that unfolded earlier this year. Anthropic was in negotiations for a Department of Defense contract managed by Pete Hegseth.
Right.
During those talks, Anthropic pushed back. They requested that specific use case regulations be put in place, ensuring their AI wouldn't be utilized for mass domestic surveillance or autonomous lethal targeting.
And following those requests for ethical guardrails, Hegseth publicly rejected the stipulations and labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk.
So we have a documented history of friction there. The company wanted specific restrictions on military implementation. The government pushed back on those demands and slapped a risk label on the company. And now we have this geopolitical standoff over a technical demand that experts say can't ever be perfectly solved.
It is incredibly messy, but, amidst all this high-level geopolitical panic and impossible regulation, there is actually an incredible silver lining for working professionals right now.
Yes.
While Washington is treating AI like a locked vault, everyday professionals are currently treating it like a junior intern.
This is the part of the deep dive that I find absolutely fascinating. Because Anthropic just released a massive study analyzing 400,000 user sessions with their Claude code agent.
Yeah.
And the data completely shatters how we think about the value of AI in the workplace.
They looked at how complex programming work is split between the human user and the AI agent, and the findings were totally counterintuitive.
What did they find?
They discovered that lawyers, middle managers, and research scientists, people with absolutely zero software coding background, were performing almost as well as professional, highly trained software engineers when they used these AI coding agents.
The non-technical users were finishing complex tasks within just 7 points of the professional engineers.
Yeah. What the data proves is that a user's domain expertise, their deep, nuanced knowledge of corporate law or molecular biology or supply chain management matters far more than their actual coding expertise when leveraging AI.
I really want to emphasize this to you listening right now. If you have been worried about being left behind because you don't know Python or C++ EA, your specific industry knowledge is actually your greatest superpower in this new economy.
It really is.
It's like having a universal translator, but for pure logic. A great lawyer already knows the exact, rigorous logical steps required to win a case or structure a contract. They just don't know the programming syntax to build a software tool to automate it. The AI agent bridges that gap. It takes your pure domain logic and translates it into executable code.
It perfectly echoes a recent joint study from Harvard and Perplexity. AI agents aren't just making people type faster or draft emails quicker. They are allowing professionals to tackle massive, cross-disciplinary problems that previously required an entire department of specialists.
That's incredible.
The value of the AI isn't capped by the model's processing parameters. It is capped by how well the human user understands the fundamental problem they are trying to solve.
So the human is the architect, bringing the vision and the structural logic. The AI is just the construction crew swinging the hammers. It is an incredibly empowering shift for non-technical professionals.
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store, perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFUL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
So bringing all these threads together, the AI boom is clearly not just some abstract concept happening in a server farm out in the desert somewhere. It is incredibly tangible and reshaping the physical world. It is directly raising the price of the next smartphone you're going to buy because of the sheer physical limitations of hardware memory.
And it is simultaneously creating massive diplomatic friction, putting the United States at odds with European regulators and international telecom giants over who gets to control the most powerful digital frameworks in the world.
And at the exact same time, is sitting quietly on your laptop right now, empowering you to execute the work of a seasoned software engineer, even if you've never written a single line of code in your entire life.
Yeah.
It is a technology defined by its massive contradictions.
It is deemed too expensive to manufacture cheaply, yet incredibly accessible to the end user. It is considered too dangerous and unpredictable to export, yet it is currently revolutionizing mundane, daily office work across the globe.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder as we close out today. If the government is demanding absolute perfect security from AI before we are allowed to use it globally, but regular people are already using it to completely revolutionize their daily jobs right now, who really gets to decide when the future is safe enough to release?
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.